All right, Katie, we are with our admin mastermind and just got done with our wonderful session talking about staying on point for this month. And that is our topic that we were going through. And man, it was great seeing everybody this morning, including yourself, Ray, the Teach Better team, and so many wonderful administrators all over this country. And I don't know, it was just kind of a chill morning with everyone kind of getting in the swing of things, getting their coffee. And I don't know, I really started with a scenario just to kind of kick things off. So I'm going to talk about that real quick, and I want you to share kind of what the consensus was. But the scenario was you are the leader of a growing campus and you want to foster a culture of focus among your staff. Which approach is most effective in achieving this goal? And so we did kind of a multiple choice to start things off, just to kind of ease everybody into such an important topic. And I'm not going to go through the choices, but I do want you to talk through kind of what people decided on, because it was unanimous from everyone in the session about what was the most important factor for that. So what did you think of the scenario, and what was the consensus with everyone?
So yeah, we don't need to necessarily read through the options you gave, but one of the options was being able to encourage multitasking, setting clear and specific goals, minimizing digital communication and kind of reducing the distractions, and then providing minimal guidance and giving kind of that autonomy to your employees. And across the board, everyone said setting those clear goals and expectations and what the focus is of your campus. And I thought it was interesting just kind of watching some of the answers come in, because it could have gone a couple different ways, but I did feel like the conversation then went to, you can dabble in some of the other options, right? We can encourage teachers to multitask. I don't love that word, but we can encourage teachers to kind of cover a couple different things. But again, it all has to go back to that clear focus with the goals in mind. And so it was nice to talk through, like, if you're a leader, the leadership style that you have is to allow some autonomy, that's fine. And you can give your staff some freedom, but then how are you constantly having them kind of come back together to align with the goals and to keep that clear focus? Because what we often see in the world of education is we have these initiatives, we have these grand ideas, and it kind of gets shoved on a plate with a lot of other things, and it keeps getting filled. And so sometimes it's easy to lose sight. But I did love hearing the conversation that people had of like, well, how do we keep that clear focus, and how can we keep the plates, clear so that we know what we're doing and constantly revisiting that. So it was nice to like kind of hear that throughout the whole segment this morning of how people constantly come back to their goals and maintain that focus throughout the year.
Yeah, it was good to see everyone kind of on the same page with that, and noticing how important it is to make sure that we're specific with our goals throughout, not just this time where it's the start of the year, we're trying to prepare, which is important to create those goals and make sure we're communicating them, but then also consistently sharing the campus or district vision throughout the school year. And so I wanted to kind of bridge that scenario to the topic. So the first question, which we spent a lot of time on, was how do you foster a culture of focus within your staff, encouraging others to prioritize their effort toward the campus goals? Because it is something that we want to be focused. We have great intentions of that. However, that falls to the wayside, especially when the school year starts and it's just this rat race of trying to get everything done. And so do you mind sharing just a little bit of some of the things that people were talking through in regards to fostering a culture of focus?
No, but I do want to kind of start by saying that it was kind of a chill atmosphere this morning was spot on. I don't know. It's like cloudy where I'm at. I don't know if everybody else kind of had that vibe too, but what was really nice is people just kind of talked openly about their own personal experiences and how they model as a leader in their building, how they model that constant revisiting and that reflection and being able to prioritize what are we doing and how does it align with what we want, the path of our district or our campus. And so I did love kind of hearing those personal stories, which sometimes we don't always get. But some things were just kind of talking through, like strengths. What are your interests? What are things that, are you gravitating towards the same teachers all the time for different committees? Or are you looking at what a teacher is strong in and how you can pull them into a committee that maybe they share an expertise or a passion for. Communicating the growth, like not just with you as the leader, but also the building and the departments and everything in between. That constant communication is helpful. And we know that there are educators in the world who want that, right? They may not have a stake in the game in the immediate moment. They may not be on that committee, but being able to hear how are we working towards our goal and what's the progress that's being made is super helpful to make sure that it's something that's still happening, right? It wasn't just something like you said that we covered at the beginning of the year and haven't talked about again since. And then providing the professional development, how does the professional development align with the goals? Sometimes we see those are disconnected, and it's easy to get disconnected, right? Because we know there's a bunch of initiatives and, new ideas that come across in education, but being intentional of like, why do we have this person coming in to help us and educate us, or how are we working towards the goal as a community? So yeah, I thought it was just really good conversation to not have these like pie in the sky ideas on how we can keep the focus of our campuses, but more how are people actually doing it and what's worked. And so it was just nice to hear some of those like kind of real life things.
Yeah, I love that you said it, because I think Ray made a great point too, is like when we work with schools, how often those things don't align. And we have to come in and be like, you know what, you have to be intentional about the professional development that you're producing, that it correlates with the goals, and that you have this theme that overlays through the entire year, because otherwise it seems scattered, and then teachers or staff get upset because they don't see the alignment to it, and it doesn't make sense. And so as a leader, it's really important. And so it was great to hear our leaders in this admin mastermind start to think through that in regards to professional development and the goal alignment that goes with that. Absolutely. The other thing that was talked about was the 4 A's, which I loved. And so I'm going to share that with too, which was aligned, accountable, authentic, and aware. And I think that correlates so well with this topic, because you need to have all those when you're talking about fostering a culture of focus, which led us into the next question. And we kind of spent quite a bit of time on this. Probably, I would say half of the admin mastermind conversation was on what system or strategies do you employ to overcome obstacles and setbacks that may threaten to derail your focus on your goals. And we know as leaders, this happens all the time. So it was fun to hear kind of their accounts of things. But I'm going to throw it your way, Katie, if you wouldn't mind sharing just some of the thoughts that were provided in regards to this question.
Yeah, being able to give them, your educators in your building, the time and the space to reflect and to reevaluate and realign. And that often is something that we take for granted. I think, it's something that we just maybe think some people just do naturally, but really giving the time is essential. So again, that goes back to like, what's your professional development day look like? And is there opportunity for some of that reflection built in? But creating a self-improvement plan was something that was brought up as far as working together with your staff, and kind of collaborating on what that could look like. And again, how does it relate back to that goal that you set at the beginning of the year? But we did have a couple leaders share their personal like stories with evaluations and how they're evaluated, how it impacts what they do for teacher evaluations and how they self-reflect on their own. And I just kept kind of bringing up, model that. Tell your staff that you do those things. If you have a way that you reflect and that you set goals for yourself, is there a way that you can show that to your staff? Because it's really important that they see that you are human too, and that you're, doing those things that really help you grow, because that's a great way for educators to take time to reflect for themselves too, and to just kind of check in and say, is what I'm doing in my classroom aligned with our school goal overall? And it kind of keeps everyone focused. So I thought that some of the strategies and ideas that they shared out were super helpful, especially because some of them, like I said, could speak to like actual things that had happened and like real world situations. Like it was such a good conversation this morning because I felt like it was a more kind of like intimate conversation, and they could share like things that they had actually seen in real life. So it was good to like take some notes and take back to our campuses for sure.
Yeah, the conversation about the self-improvement aspect of it, like not relying on other people, not relying on your boss to give you feedback or to give you an evaluation. but also like creating your own self-improvement plan was huge. And some of that was discussed with was the obstacle piece. Like a lot of times when we're looking at why do initiative not work, we want to, and this is human nature, is to, okay, this didn't work because of X, Y, and Z. And instead of like, I had a personal stake in it, I might have been the reason, I might have been the obstacle as to why it didn't work the way it did. And so, having that self-reflection plan to go through the school year with, then you're not relying on anyone else. You're not relying on a boss to have that meeting with you, because as we know, school is busy and a lot of times they don't have the time to be able to come onto your campus to see what really is going on. And as an administrator doing that with a teacher, sometimes I know in my own experience, sometimes I was rushing to jump into a classroom real quick because the due date was coming and I had missed the opportunity throughout the year. And so it's not really a very fair process to that teacher or to that administrator if that occurs. And so if we are having a self-reflection and a personal evaluation of our own, then we're not relying on anyone else for that accountability and to make ourselves better. So,
well, and it feels inauthentic too. If you have someone that's flying in because they're trying to cut a due date or hit that deadline, that they're not necessarily in there looking for the things that you want them to. And so being able to communicate, that was a thing that was brought up this morning, of being able to communicate to your leader as far as what is your personal goals and how does that align is just as important, but also making your, like you said, kind of doing your own thing. If you necessarily can't get someone to evaluate you from that's higher than you, can you get a peer to come in and give you some feedback? Can you reach out? And what kind of culture can you set in your building that encourages that, so that the leader doesn't have to be the only one delivering the feedback? So lots of great conversation today for sure.
Love it. Yep. They talked about accountability partners and executive coaches. So if you need something like that, obviously reach out to the team. We would love to partner you with that. Again, we meet every Tuesday morning. I'm going to throw the outro here, and pretty soon it'll show you the link where to go to sign up for that. It's free. And we would love for those who are watching, our leaders, to join us every Tuesday morning for this conversation. Next week, we're going to talk about feedback from your staff in regards of staying on point for the month of July. And Katie, I just appreciate you being a part of this conversation today and sharing the recap.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh.